please ensure that your phones are on vibrate or silent. Thank you for coming here this afternoon to the Hamilton Police Station. We're about to be addressed by the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Stephen Corbishley, on a matter of significant importance to both the BPS and indeed the public. Commissioner.
Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, everyone. Yesterday at 4 o'clock on Wednesday 9th of September, an incident took place in the East Broadway area where an armed police officer gave chase to a suspect who was believed to be in possession of a knife. During the chase, it is apparent that a magazine containing bullets dislodged from the officer's equipment, the utility belt that they wear, and has been lost, we believe, in the vicinity of that area. Since yesterday, we have undertaken extensive searches of the area, but at this stage, we have not recovered the said magazine. The purpose of this press conference is to ask for any member of the public who discovers the magazine to hand it straight in to the Bermuda Police Service. Additionally, if any member of the public has already found said magazine, I ask them to bring it to us immediately, noting that under the Firearms Act, it is an offence to possess such an item which can be punishable by up to 10 years in prison. We've begun a thorough inquiry in regards to the matters that took place yesterday. That involves our professional standards department. It also involves senior officers, and we have declared it as a critical incident because I recognise from the public's perception this will be of great concern, not least in regards to ammunition being currently lost by the service, and of course the risk that it may come into the hands of parties that we are concerned of. The early stages of the inquiry suggest that not only was the officer undertaking his duty, chasing somebody armed with a knife, there's very real potential that his equipment that holds the magazine has become faulty, and that's where the actual thing has dropped out. So I'm not attributing any blame to the officer, not least as he was doing his job, being involved in a very difficult situation. If any person finds this magazine, or indeed knows somebody who has it, I ask them to contact immediately the Bermuda Police Service on 295 0011. If somebody does know where it is and are concerned to this fact but do not wish to present their identity, I encourage them to contact Bermuda Crime Stoppers. I take this matter very seriously because, of course, there are reputational issues for the service, which is the reason why I have instigated a thorough investigation in regards to the matters that have taken place. Additionally, we need to recognise that we do have armed police officers on the streets of Bermuda that have occasion to be called to instance where their specialist skills are required. And whilst this is no excuse, unfortunately, such incidents can take place, and we have seen them in other police forces elsewhere in the world. So I wish to reassure the public that we're doing everything we can to recover this item, and ask for the public's help around the East Broadway area, that if they do find such an item, I think most people will be able to recognise it, but it will be a container that normally fits into a firearm, and if that's located, just bring it to us straight away. If they're concerned about picking it up, then please contact 911 and we will attend immediately. I'm happy to take questions.
East End, West End, East Broadway?
Say again?
East End, West End?
Well, we're covering all areas around.
Okay, idea where it came out?
No. I mean, the situation is that the officer was on a motorcycle. He's an armed officer, and the inquiries that we're doing, particularly around the equipment and the kit that he carries, was the potential that perhaps vibrations from the bike have dislodged the magazine, and that's caused it to come out. And that's part of our inquiries, because it may be that we need to review the kit that we use, just to ensure such an incident doesn't take place again.
What's the threat to the general public? It's just
Well, I mean, certainly this is, I'm not saying this is not serious. And of course, the issue around live ammunition being lost is something that we need to address immediately. But it's not a firearm. Firearm has not been lost. But of course, I would be concerned, as anybody else would, that if this item got into the hands of wrong persons, that would be extremely concerning for us. And we're doing a number of inquiries, some of which you will expect me not to mention here. But I think it's important that we share with the public, not just to reassure about what we're doing, but for ask for their help. Because no doubt it could come off around a wide area, and I'm sure somebody may find it, and I ask them to hand it in as soon as possible.
I'm sorry, did police apprehend the suspect?
No, unfortunately that suspect got away. Obviously that's a separate investigation for which we're making inquiries. But the deployment of that particular officer was relevant for the situation that they were dealing with.
So he was armed specifically because he was...
Yeah, I think, I mean, if we get calls where there is potentially an immediate threat to life, certainly if somebody presents a firearm, but also bladed articles, we do a risk assessment, and the deployment of firearms officers to deal with such incidents is often taken. But of course what we've got to recognise is that our officers have many less lethal options, so things like taser, pepper spray and other matters. So just because an armed officer went there does not necessarily mean that that armed officer would use their weapon.
How often are officers, you mentioned that they sometimes are armed, how often does that happen in Bermuda? I mean, most people assume it almost never happens.
Well, we have armed officers working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in Bermuda. I'm actually very proud of the unit that we have. And they provide a general police response, so they're there to deal with incidents that I've just described. Or they may actually support focus investigations where we have intelligence and we've got to deal with individuals that present a risk. In total, I think we still have about 60 armed officers that regularly perform duties. They are fully accredited. They receive extensive training. Indeed, we had a significant training exercise yesterday. And certainly from my experience in working in other parts of the world, the BPS has exceptional, highly credited and very professional firearms officers. And whilst it concerns me greatly about this, I think it's important to note that certainly the officer involved, the very real potential is that his kit has possibly failed and that's caused the item to dislodge. That's not an excuse. We need to recover the magazine, but it's important I share that with the public.
Has this ever happened before? Has any sort of... I mean, you said nothing against this officer, so I'm just wondering.
I think in regards to it happening before, certainly in the time I've been here, this occasion hasn't taken place, and thankfully so, because it's not something I would want to see week in, week out. But it's very easy to perhaps cast blame or anything. We've got to get to the facts of what's taken place. Our priority is getting the magazine back. But running in parallel with that is establishing how the circumstance came about in the first place. Are there any lessons to be learned? Is it a kit malfunction? Are there some different procedures that we need to put into place? And that's being led by one of the assistant commissioners, Mr. Daniels. And I've got no doubt over the next 24 to 48 hours we'll be in a position to understand exactly what took place, and hopefully with the magazine recovered.
Are there measures being put in place for the time being while this is being investigated? Obviously, if there are equipment failures and there are officers available 24/7 with live guns.
Yeah, I think the issue is, I mean, firstly, is to take into account the fact it hasn't happened before. So part of the examination will be that specific officer's kit. Has there been a fault within it? Is there general wear and tear? And of course, we will also do a review of other officers' equipment. The majority of our firearms officers deploy in armed response vehicles, so they are contained within a vehicle, and the risk perhaps is slightly different than when you're on a motorbike, which obviously has a lot more vibration, a lot more movement, and that's something that we really need to drill into and establish the facts. So, in regards to current arrangements, we haven't suspended any firearms duties. We have asked the officer to step back from his role just while we do the inquiry, because I think that's important to do, so there's complete transparency. Whilst this is of us concern, we have to maintain a business as usual capability to deal with such incidents as we go forward.
One other question. No cameras that could assist?
That's part of our inquiry, and I mean we deployed a significant number of officers, and one may question, well, Commissioner, why are you only just talking about this today? Well, we have search advisors that will properly look at a strategy, and we deployed a high number of officers to search particular scenes, because it's important that we actually recover this and we deal with it. But certainly it was my decision today that we need to inform the public, because of course I need the public's help, because if they find it, they can hand it in to us. But also there's a level of reassurance that I just want to offer that we're an organisation, and I'll be quite up. We have to be a learning organisation, and sometimes things happen. I'm not here to make excuses. We need to get to the bottom of what took place the other day to prevent such an incident again in the future, and that will be done transparently. I've communicated with His Excellency the Governor and also the Minister for National Security to inform them, just to make sure that obviously certainly certain bodies are informed and aware, and obviously I'm here today to offer the facts of the matter and be transparent in what we're doing about it.
I'm sorry, you misunderstood my question. I'm
My
asking,
apologies.
were there other cameras? There are cameras all around.
Yep, my apologies. I moved past that. CCTV review is taking place, certainly in regards to all movements by the relevant officer. But we know their movements anyway, and that was part of the inquiries. But of course, if you're moving quickly on a motorbike, there's an issue where property can bounce into somewhere else. We haven't had anybody come in so far, which, whilst, okay, that could be a concern to me, but the item is not marked as Bermuda Police Service. It's a sort of standard item. And I can't rule out the fact that somebody may have picked it up and thought, okay, nice thing to put in, I don't know, my bedroom or something like that, and they don't realise the significance of what they found and also the risks that they incur by continuing to possess it. And I say to a member of the public, if they have picked it up the other day, just bring it into us. There'll be no liability against them at all. But if we find in a future and we don't recover it and we discover somebody with it, I don't know, perhaps a couple of months later, then of course they may be criminally responsible for retaining that item.
So CCTV has not been helpful so far?
CCTV sometimes takes a long time to review, and what you've got is the officer, not just obviously, and we believe it was related to this incident, but we're examining his entire tour of duty just to make sure that it hasn't come out at any other period. And we all know, and without being flippant, but when we lose something, our mind goes about where we went and so forth, and that's part of our inquiries.
Now, you said the chase happened around 4 p.m. Can you say when the magazine was discovered missing?
Yeah, it was discovered a couple of hours later. And again, that wouldn't be, and if you see our firearms officers, they carry a substantial amount of kit, including obviously their protective vests and a number of different items. And certainly the magazines will be held in a pouch. So I don't sort of cast any criticism to the officer not realising, because what happens is at the end of a duty, similar to the tour of duty, the items are signed back into our armoury. And that officer quite rightly said, it's misplaced, and we were able to immediately respond to it. So the 2 hours lost, whilst regrettable, I don't think is down to the officer at all. I think as soon as he realised, he informed, and obviously we took action.
Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, it's very interesting. So, I'm sorry, you originally said East Broadway, so I'm thinking East Broadway, but now you're saying this could have been lost almost anywhere within this period of hours.
Well, the incident I described was in East Broadway.
Right, the chase.
Yeah, and that was, if you take into account the dislodging, and so on. The most likely
You've got a
area
much
is...
broader area.
Of course we have, which was the reason why, and I wasn't being evasive with you, which is the reason why that we will do some specific searches. Those will extend, but I think it's important to bring to the attention of the public, because my view and my hope is it's lying on a roadway somewhere that somebody has either picked up or will see, and they will hand it in to us.
Can you just give me, so Pembroke Parish is one of the areas where he would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Is it any other parishes?
Well, I think at the moment, rather than just saying all areas, because, and I'll be honest, I don't know the specifics of all his duty, because it's been allocated to the Assistant Commissioner to deal with. But what we just say to the public is that if they see something, collect it. If they're concerned about picking it up, call us. We'll come and collect it and just bring it back to the police station. And that won't be the end of the matter. As I've described, there's a full inquiry going on. We're accountable, particularly with the use and possession of firearms, that we take this very seriously. And where there are lessons learned, or if anyone needs to be held to account, we'll do that properly as well.
Do you have a picture of a similar one?
I'm sure that
A picture will be sent to the media afterwards.
I'm sure that can be provided, no problem at all.
Okay.
Can you say how many rounds of ammunition were in
I'm not going to specify, other than it was a normal magazine that contained an amount of ammunition within.
And can you say what time the search actually started for the missing magazine?
I think it was just after 6 o'clock yesterday. So we're looking at a period from about 4 p.m, which was the chase, and then, quite rightly, as your colleague said, there could be a wide area where it could have gone missing.
Okay, thank you, members of the media. Again, if anyone has possession of this item, you are asked to turn it in, and not to seem as if we're trying to cause any problems or hold anyone or threaten anyone, but if you are found after an extended period with this item in your possession, you are liable to 10 years minimum if convicted for possession of ammunition. But again, as the Commissioner stated, if you do have this item in your possession, please contact 295-0011. We could have someone come collect it from you or bring it into the closest police station, the nearest police station to your location. Thank you all.